The sun was shining brightly on a quiet Monday morning as a young boy, no older than 12, walked into the local bank with his mother. The boy, dressed in a simple but clean outfit, looked around with wide eyes. He had never been inside a bank before. His mother, a tall, elegant woman with a calm demeanor, held his hand gently as they approached the counter. She had brought him along to teach him about responsibility and how the world works. Little did they know, this visit would turn into a lesson for everyone in the bank that day. The bank was busy, with staff moving about, helping customers, and chatting among themselves. The boy and his mother waited patiently in line. When it was their turn, the boy's mother stepped forward and greeted the teller with a warm smile. She handed over a few documents and explained that she needed to make a large withdrawal. The teller, a middle-aged woman with a stern expression, glanced at the boy and then back at his mother. Her tone was polite but cold, and she began processing the request without much conversation. As they waited, the boy noticed a group of bank staff standing nearby, whispering and occasionally glancing in their direction. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but he could feel their eyes on him. He shifted uncomfortably, feeling out of place. His mother, however, seemed unfazed. She stood tall, her posture confident, and her focus remained on the transaction at hand. The teller finished processing the withdrawal and handed the money to the boy's mother. As she counted it, one of the staff members from the group walked over. He was a young man, dressed in a sharp suit, and he had a smirk on his face. He leaned casually against the counter and looked down at the boy. "You know," he said, his tone dripping with mockery, "this isn't a playground. Maybe you should wait outside while your mom handles her business." The boy's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. He looked up at his mother, unsure of how to respond. She, however, didn't miss a beat. She turned to the young man, her eyes sharp and her voice steady. "Excuse me," she said, her tone firm but calm. "Is there a problem here?" The young man hesitated, clearly not expecting her to confront him. He straightened up and tried to brush it off. No problem," he said, though his smirk didn't quite disappear. "Just making sure everything's in order." The boy's mother held his gaze for a moment longer before turning back to the teller. "Thank you," she said, her voice polite but firm. She took the money, placed it in her bag, and then turned to her son. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go." As they walked away, the boy could still feel the eyes of the staff on them. He kept his head down, feeling small and out of place. His mother, however, held her head high. She squeezed his hand reassuringly and led him out of the bank. Once they were outside, the boy looked up at his mother. "Why were they looking at us like that?" he asked, his voice quiet. His mother stopped and knelt down to his level. She placed a hand on his shoulder and looked him in the eye. "Sometimes," she said gently, "people judge others without knowing the full story. But remember, it's not about what they think. It's about who you are and how you carry yourself. You hold your head high, no matter what." The boy nodded, though he still felt a little confused. His mother smiled and stood up, taking his hand again. "Come on," she said. "We have one more stop to make." They walked down the street, the boy still processing what had just happened. He didn't understand why the bank staff had been so rude, but he trusted his mother. She always knew what to do. A few minutes later, they arrived at a large, imposing building. The boy looked up at the sign above the door and his eyes widened. It was the headquarters of the bank they had just visited. His mother led him inside, and they were greeted by a receptionist who immediately recognized her. "Good morning, ma'am," the receptionist said with a respectful nod. "They're waiting for you in the boardroom." The boy's mother thanked her and led him to the elevator. As they rode up to the top floor, the boy looked at his mother in awe. "Mom," he said, "what are we doing here?" She smiled down at him. "You'll see," she said. When the elevator doors opened, they stepped out into a luxurious hallway. At the end of the hall was a large, ornate door. The boy's mother walked up to it and pushed it open, revealing a room full of well-dressed men and women sitting around a large table. They all turned to look as she entered, and the room fell silent. The boy's mother stepped forward, her presence commanding the room. "Good morning," she said, her voice clear and confident. "I believe you've been expecting me." The boy stood by her side, his heart racing. He had no idea what was going on, but he could feel the tension in the air. The people at the table exchanged nervous glances, and one of them stood up. "Welcome," he said, his voice shaky. "We're honored to have you here." The boy's mother nodded and took a seat at the head of the table. She gestured for her son to sit beside her. As he did, he noticed the nameplate in front of her seat. It read, "Chairman of the Board." His eyes widened in shock. He looked up at his mother, who gave him a reassuring smile. "Now," she said, turning to the room, "let's get down to business." The boy sat quietly, trying to process what was happening. He had always known his mother was important, but he had no idea she was the owner of the bank. As the meeting began, he couldn't help but think about the staff who had mocked him earlier. He wondered what they would think if they knew the truth. Little did he know, they were about to find out. The boardroom was filled with tension as the meeting began. The boy sat quietly beside his mother, trying to make sense of everything. He had always known his mother was a busy woman, but he never imagined she was the owner of the bank. The realization was overwhelming, but he felt a sense of pride as he watched her command the room with confidence and authority. The meeting lasted for over an hour, with discussions about the bank's performance, upcoming projects, and financial strategies. The boy didn't understand most of what was being said, but he could tell that everyone in the room respected his mother. They listened carefully to her every word, nodding in agreement and occasionally jotting down notes. As the meeting came to an end, the boy's mother stood up and addressed the room. "Thank you all for your hard work," she said. "But before we wrap up, there's something I need to address." Her tone was calm but firm, and the room fell silent once again. She turned to her son and placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is my son," she said, her voice steady. "Earlier today, we visited one of our branches. While we were there, he was treated with disrespect by some of the staff. They mocked him, made him feel unwelcome, and questioned his presence in the bank." The room erupted in murmurs of shock and disbelief. The boy's mother held up a hand, and the room quieted down. "I understand that mistakes happen," she continued. "But this kind of behavior is unacceptable. As the owner of this bank, I expect every employee to treat our customers with respect and dignity, regardless of their age, appearance, or background." The boy looked around the room and saw the expressions on the faces of the board members. Some looked angry, others embarrassed, and a few even seemed ashamed. One of the men at the table stood up and cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he said, "we deeply apologize for what happened. This is not the standard we uphold, and we will take immediate action to address the situation." The boy's mother nodded. "See that you do," she said. "I want a full report on the steps you take to ensure this doesn't happen again. And I want the staff involved to be held accountable for their actions." With that, the meeting was adjourned. The boy's mother thanked the board members and led her son out of the room. As they walked back to the elevator, the boy looked up at her. "Mom," he said, "are they going to get in trouble?" She smiled down at him. "They'll face consequences for their actions," she said. "But more importantly, this will be a lesson for everyone in the bank. It's important to treat people with kindness and respect, no matter who they are." The boy nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. He was proud of his mother for standing up for him, but he also felt a little sad that the staff had been so unkind. He couldn't help but wonder how they would react when they found out who his mother was. Meanwhile, back at the branch, the staff who had mocked the boy were going about their day as usual. The young man who had made the snide comment was chatting with his coworkers, laughing about the incident. "Did you see the look on that kid's face?" he said, chuckling. Like he'd never been in a bank before. His coworkers laughed along, but their laughter was cut short when the branch manager walked in. His face was stern, and he had a serious expression. "Everyone, gather around," he said. "We need to have a meeting." The staff exchanged confused glances but did as they were told. They gathered in the small meeting room, where the branch manager stood at the front, holding a piece of paper. "I just received a call from headquarters," he said, his voice tense. "It seems there was an incident earlier today involving a young boy and his mother. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?" The room fell silent. The young man who had mocked the boy shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding eye contact. The branch manager looked around the room, his gaze landing on the young man. "Care to explain?" he asked. The young man hesitated, then shrugged. "It was just a joke," he said. "I didn't mean anything by it." The branch manager's expression darkened. "A joke?" he repeated. "Do you have any idea who that boy's mother is?" The young man shook his head, looking confused. The branch manager took a deep breath and held up the piece of paper. "She's the owner of this bank," he said. "And she's not happy about what happened." The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. The young man's face turned pale, and he sank back in his chair. The branch manager continued, his voice firm. "This kind of behavior is unacceptable. We are here to serve our customers, not to mock them. Because of your actions, we are all under scrutiny, and there will be consequences." The staff sat in stunned silence, the weight of the situation sinking in. The young man who had made the comment looked down at his hands, his earlier confidence completely gone. He realized too late that his joke had cost him more than he could have imagined. As the meeting ended, the staff returned to their desks, their mood somber. The young man stayed behind, his head in his hands. He knew he had made a terrible mistake, and he had no one to blame but himself. Meanwhile, the boy and his mother were on their way home. The boy sat quietly in the car, thinking about everything that had happened. He turned to his mother and asked, "Do you think they'll change?" She smiled at him and reached over to ruffle his hair. "I hope so," she said. Sometimes, people need a wake-up call to realize the impact of their actions. But no matter what, remember what I told you earlier. Hold your head high, and always treat others with kindness and respect. The boy nodded, feeling a sense of clarity. He had learned an important lesson that day, and he knew it was one he would carry with him for the rest of his life. The next morning, the bank branch was buzzing with tension. News of the incident had spread like wildfire, and the staff were on edge. The young man who had mocked the boy the previous day arrived at work looking visibly nervous. He had barely slept, replaying the events in his mind and dreading the consequences. His coworkers avoided eye contact with him, unsure of how to act around him now that they knew the gravity of the situation. The branch manager called another meeting first thing in the morning. The staff filed into the room, their faces tense and their voices hushed. The manager stood at the front, his arms crossed and his expression stern. "As you all know," he began, "we've had a serious breach of professionalism at this branch. The owner of the bank has made it clear that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. Moving forward, there will be stricter guidelines in place, and anyone who fails to meet these standards will face disciplinary action." He paused, letting his words sink in. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The manager then turned to the young man who had been at the center of the incident. "You," he said, his tone sharp, "will be suspended without pay for 2 weeks. During that time, you'll need to complete a training program on customer service and workplace ethics. If there's any repeat of this behavior, you will be terminated immediately." The young man nodded, his face flushed with embarrassment. He wanted to say something, to apologize or explain himself, but the words caught in his throat. He simply muttered, "Yes, sir," and looked down at his hands. The manager then addressed the rest of the staff. "This is a reminder to all of you," he said. "We are here to serve our customers, not to judge them. Every person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated with respect. Let this be a lesson to everyone." The meeting ended, and the staff returned to their desks, the weight of the manager's words hanging over them. The young man gathered his things and left the bank, his head down and his shoulders slumped. He knew he had messed up, and he couldn't shake the feeling of regret. Meanwhile, the boy and his mother were back at home, going about their day as usual. The boy was still processing everything that had happened, but he felt a sense of closure knowing that the staff had been held accountable. His mother, however, was already thinking ahead. She knew that this incident was an opportunity to make a bigger change, not just in the bank but in the community as well. Later that afternoon, she sat down with her son at the kitchen table. "How are you feeling?" she asked him, her voice gentle. The boy thought for a moment before answering. "I'm okay," he said. I don't understand why they were so mean." His mother nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes," she said, "people act out of ignorance or fear. They judge others without knowing their story. But that doesn't make it right. What's important is how we respond. We can choose to let it bring us down, or we can use it as an opportunity to make things better." The boy looked at her, his eyes wide. "What do you mean?" he asked. She smiled and reached across the table to take his hand. "I've been thinking," she said. "We have the power to make a difference. What if we use this experience to teach others about kindness and respect? What if we started a program at the bank to help people understand the importance of treating everyone equally?" The boy's face lit up. "That sounds cool," he said. "Can I help?" His mother chuckled. "Of course," she said. "In fact, I think you'd be perfect for it. Who better to teach people about kindness than someone who's experienced it firsthand?" The boy grinned, feeling a sense of excitement. For the first time since the incident, he felt like something good could come out of it. He and his mother spent the rest of the afternoon brainstorming ideas for the program, talking about how they could make a real impact. As the day came to an end, the boy felt a renewed sense of hope. He had learned an important lesson about standing up for himself and treating others with respect, and now he had the chance to share that lesson with others. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to take on the challenge. Little did he know, his mother's plan was about to set off a chain reaction that would change the bank, and the community, for the better. Over the next few days, the boy's mother worked tirelessly to put her plan into action. She reached out to the bank's Human Resources Department and proposed a new initiative called the Kindness and Respect Program. The goal was to educate employees on the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their background or appearance. The program would include workshops, training sessions, and even community outreach events to promote inclusivity and understanding. The HR team was immediately on board, recognizing the value of such an initiative. They worked closely with the boy's mother to develop a curriculum that would be both engaging and impactful. The program was designed to encourage employees to reflect on their own biases and learn how to create a more welcoming environment for all customers. Meanwhile, the boy was excited to play his part. His mother had given him the task of coming up with ideas for how to make the program fun and relatable, especially for younger audiences. He spent hours brainstorming, jotting down thoughts in a notebook. He wanted to include stories, activities, and even role-playing exercises to help people understand what it felt like to be in someone else's shoes. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, the boy shared his ideas with his mother. "What if we had a game where people have to guess how others are feeling based on their expressions?" he suggested. "Or maybe we could tell stories about times when someone was kind to us and how it made us feel." His mother smiled, clearly impressed. "Those are wonderful ideas," she said. I think they'll really help people connect with the message. You're a natural at this. The boy beamed with pride. He had never thought of himself as a leader before, but now he felt like he was making a real difference. He couldn't wait to see the program come to life. A week later, the Kindness and Respect program was officially launched. The first workshop was held at the bank's headquarters, and employees from all branches were invited to attend. The boy and his mother stood at the front of the room, ready to kick things off. The boy was a little nervous, but his mother's reassuring presence gave him the confidence he needed. "Good morning, everyone," his mother began, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you for being here today. This program is very important to me, not just as the owner of this bank, but as a mother. What happened recently was a wake-up call for all of us, and it's reminded me of the power we have to make a positive impact." She then introduced her son, who stepped forward and addressed the room. "Hi," he said, his voice a little shaky at first. "I'm the boy who was treated unfairly at one of the branches. At first, it made me feel really bad, but now I see it as a chance to help make things better. I hope this program will help everyone remember to be kind, no matter who you're talking to." The room erupted in applause, and the boy felt a surge of confidence. He and his mother then led the group through a series of activities, including the games and stories he had come up with. The employees were fully engaged, laughing, sharing their own experiences, and reflecting on how they could improve their interactions with customers. By the end of the workshop, the atmosphere in the room had completely shifted. People were smiling, chatting, and expressing their gratitude for the opportunity to learn and grow. The boy's mother could see the impact they were making, and she felt a deep sense of pride, not just in the program, but in her son. As they left the headquarters that day, the boy turned to his mother. "Do you think it worked?" he asked. She smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I think it's just the beginning," she said. "Change takes time, but today was a great start. You should be proud of yourself." The boy nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He knew there was still work to be done, but he was ready to keep going. Together, he and his mother were determined to create a culture of kindness, one that would extend far beyond the walls of the bank. The Kindness and Respect program quickly gained momentum, and word of its success spread throughout the bank's branches. Employees who attended the workshops returned to their workplaces with a renewed sense of purpose, eager to put what they had learned into practice. The boy and his mother received countless messages of gratitude from staff members who felt inspired by the program and its message. One branch, in particular, stood out as a shining example of the program's impact. It was the same branch where the incident with the boy had occurred. The staff there had been deeply affected by what had happened, and they were determined to make amends. The branch manager, who had initially been stern and strict during the fallout, now took on a more supportive role, encouraging his team to embrace the program's values. The young man who had mocked the boy had completed his suspension and training program. He returned to work with a changed attitude, humbled by the experience and eager to prove himself. He approached the branch manager on his first day back and asked if he could share what he had learned with the rest of the team. The manager agreed, and during a staff meeting, the young man stood up and addressed his co-workers. "I want to apologize to all of you," he began, his voice sincere. "What I did was wrong, and I'm truly sorry. This experience has taught me a lot about the importance of kindness and respect, and I'm committed to doing better. I hope you'll give me the chance to show that I've changed." The room was silent for a moment, and then one by one, his co-workers began to nod and offer words of encouragement. The branch manager stepped forward and placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "We all make mistakes," he said. "What matters is how we learn from them. Welcome back." The young man smiled, feeling a sense of relief and gratitude. He knew he still had a long way to go to rebuild trust, but he was ready to put in the effort. Meanwhile, the boy and his mother continued to expand the program. They decided to take it beyond the bank and into the community, partnering with local schools and organizations to spread the message of kindness and respect. The boy, now more confident than ever, took on an active role in these outreach efforts. He visited schools and shared his story with students, encouraging them to stand up against bullying and treat others with empathy. One day, he and his mother visited a middle school to host a workshop. The boy stood in front of a classroom full of students, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Hi, everyone," he said. "I'm here to talk about something really important, kindness. A few weeks ago, I was treated unfairly because of how I looked. It hurt, but it also taught me that we all have the power to make a difference. If we choose to be kind, we can change someone's day, or even their life." The students listened intently, their eyes wide with curiosity. The boy then led them through an activity where they shared stories of times when someone had been kind to them. The room was filled with laughter and heartfelt moments, and by the end of the workshop, the students were buzzing with excitement about how they could spread kindness in their own lives. As they left the school, the boy's mother turned to him with a proud smile. "You were amazing up there," she said. "You're making such a big difference." The boy grinned, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "I just want to help people understand," he said. "It's not that hard to be kind." His mother nodded, her heart swelling with pride. She knew that her son was not only learning valuable lessons but also teaching them to others. Together, they were creating a ripple effect of positivity that would touch countless lives. But their work was far from over. As they drove home, the boy looked out the window, his mind already racing with new ideas. He knew that kindness was a journey, not a destination, and he was ready to keep moving forward, one step at a time. The Kindness and Respect program continued to grow, reaching more people and making a bigger impact than the boy or his mother had ever imagined. The bank's employees were not only embracing the program but also becoming ambassadors for its message, sharing what they had learned with their families, friends, and communities. The boy's story had become a powerful example of how small acts of kindness, or unkindness, could have far-reaching consequences. One day, the boy and his mother received an unexpected invitation. A local news station had heard about the program and wanted to feature it in a segment about community initiatives. At first, the boy felt nervous about being on TV, but his mother encouraged him. "This is a chance to share our message with even more people," she said. "And you've already done such an amazing job. Just be yourself." On the day of the interview, the boy and his mother arrived at the studio, where they were greeted by a friendly reporter. The boy was still a little nervous, but as soon as the cameras started rolling, he felt a sense of calm. The reporter asked him about the incident at the bank and how it had inspired the Kindness and Respect program. The boy spoke from the heart, his words simple but powerful. "It wasn't a nice feeling," he said, recalling the day he was mocked. "But my mom taught me that we can use bad experiences to make things better. Now, I want to help people understand that being kind is easy, and it can make a big difference." The reporter then turned to the boy's mother, who shared her perspective as a business leader and a parent. "This program isn't just about teaching employees how to treat customers," she said. "It's about creating a culture of empathy and understanding. And I'm so proud of my son for being such an important part of that." The segment aired later that evening, and the response was overwhelming. Viewers reached out to the bank and the news station, expressing their support for the program and sharing their own stories of kindness. The boy and his mother were flooded with messages of gratitude and encouragement, and they felt even more motivated to keep going. Meanwhile, the young man from the bank branch who had been at the center of the incident was watching the news segment at home. Seeing the boy speak so confidently and passionately about kindness made him reflect on his own actions. He realized how much he had grown since that day and how grateful he was for the second chance he had been given. He decided to reach out to the boy and his mother to express his gratitude. The next day, he called the bank's headquarters and asked to speak with the boy's mother. When she answered, he took a deep breath and said, I just wanted to say thank you. Watching the news segment made me realize how much your program has changed not just the bank, but me too. I'm really sorry for what I did, and I'm committed to being better." The boy's mother smiled, touched by his sincerity. "Thank you for saying that," she said. "Change isn't easy, but it's worth it. I'm proud of you for taking responsibility and working to improve." The young man hung up the phone, feeling a sense of closure. He knew he still had work to do, but he was on the right path. And he was determined to pay it forward by spreading the message of kindness in his own way. As for the boy, he was thrilled by the positive response to the news segment. He felt like he was part of something much bigger than himself, and it gave him a sense of purpose. He and his mother continued to work on the program, expanding it to include more schools, community centers, and even other businesses. But amidst all the excitement, the boy never forgot the most important lesson his mother had taught him, that kindness starts with one person, one moment, one choice. And he was determined to keep making that choice, every single day. The Kindness and Respect program had become a cornerstone of the bank's identity, and its impact was felt not only within the organization but also throughout the community. The boy and his mother were invited to speak at events, schools, and even other businesses that wanted to learn from their success. What had started as a response to a painful experience had blossomed into a movement, and the boy was at the heart of it all. One Saturday morning, the boy and his mother were preparing for a special event they had organized, a kindness fair at a local park. The fair was designed to bring people together to celebrate kindness through games, activities, and workshops. The boy had been involved in planning every detail, from choosing the activities to designing the posters. He was especially excited about a booth where people could write notes of encouragement to others and hang them on a kindness tree. As they set up the fair, the boy couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The park was filled with colorful banners, smiling volunteers, and families eager to participate. He looked around and saw people of all ages and backgrounds coming together, and it reminded him of why they had started the program in the first place. The fair kicked off with a short speech from the boy's mother. "Thank you all for being here today," she said, her voice warm and welcoming. "Kindness is something we all have the power to give, and today is about celebrating that. I'm so proud of my son for helping to make this happen, and I hope you'll all take something meaningful away from this event." The crowd applauded, and the boy stepped forward to say a few words. He was no longer nervous about speaking in front of people. Instead, he felt a sense of excitement. "Hi, everyone," he began. "I'm so happy you're here. Kindness might seem like a small thing, but it can change someone's day, or even their life. Today, let's all try to do something kind for someone else. It doesn't have to be big, even a smile can make a difference." The fair was a huge success. Families participated in activities like painting kindness rocks, creating friendship bracelets, and writing thank you notes to essential workers. The kindness tree quickly filled up with colorful notes, each one carrying a message of hope and encouragement. The boy walked around the park, talking to people and hearing their stories. He was amazed by how much joy the event was bringing to everyone. One moment stood out to him in particular. A little girl, no older than 6, approached him shyly. She held up a note she had written for the kindness tree. "Can you help me hang this?" she asked. The boy smiled and knelt down to her level. "Of course," he said. "What does it say?" The girl beamed. "It says, 'You are special.' I want someone to find it and feel happy." The boy felt a lump in his throat as he helped her hang the note on the tree. "That's amazing," he said. "You're going to make someone's day." As the fair continued, the boy noticed a familiar face in the crowd. It was the young man from the bank branch, the one who had mocked him months ago. The young man was standing near the kindness tree, reading the notes with a thoughtful expression. The boy hesitated for a moment, then walked over to him. "Hi," the boy said, his voice friendly but cautious. The young man looked up, surprised. "Hey," he said. "I, saw the flyer for the fair and thought I'd check it out. This is really cool." The boy nodded. "Thanks. I'm glad you came." There was a brief silence, and then the young man took a deep breath. "Listen," he said, "I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry for what happened back then. I was wrong, and I've been trying to do better. This program, it's really changed things for me." The boy smiled. "I'm glad," he said. "That's what it's all about, learning and growing. Thanks for coming today." The young man nodded, looking relieved. "Thanks for giving me a second chance," he said. As the day came to an end, the boy and his mother stood by the kindness tree, watching as people continued to add their notes. The boy felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had started the day hoping to spread kindness, but he realized that he had received just as much in return. His mother put an arm around his shoulders. "You did an amazing job today," she said. "I'm so proud of you." The boy leaned into her, feeling grateful. "Thanks, Mom," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you." As they packed up the fare and headed home, the boy knew that this was just the beginning. There was still so much work to do, so many people to reach, and so many lives to touch. But he was ready for the challenge. Together with his mother, he was determined to keep spreading kindness, one note, one smile, one moment at a time. The success of the kindness fair inspired the boy and his mother to take their mission even further. They began planning more events, partnering with local organizations, and even collaborating with other businesses to promote kindness and respect on a larger scale. The boy's story had become a symbol of hope and change, and people were eager to be part of the movement. One of their next big projects was a community-wide initiative called Kindness Week. The idea was to encourage everyone in the city to perform acts of kindness, big or small, and share their experiences on social media using the hashtag #KindnessStartsHere. The boy and his mother worked tirelessly to spread the word, reaching out to schools, businesses, and community leaders to get them involved. As Kindness Week approached, the excitement grew. Local newspapers and radio stations picked up the story, and soon the entire city was buzzing with anticipation. The boy couldn't believe how much their small idea had grown. He felt a mix of pride and responsibility, knowing that so many people were looking to him and his mother for inspiration. The week kicked off with a launch event at the city square. The boy and his mother stood on a small stage, surrounded by a crowd of eager faces. The boy's mother addressed the crowd first, her voice filled with warmth and determination. "Thank you all for being here today," she said. "Kindness Week is about more than just doing nice things for others. It's about creating a culture of empathy and understanding, one act at a time. Let's show the world what our community is capable of." Then it was the boy's turn to speak. He stepped up to the microphone, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Hi, everyone," he began. "I'm just a kid, but I've learned that even small actions can make a big difference. This week, let's all try to do something kind for someone else. It could be as simple as holding the door open for someone or saying something nice. And don't forget to share your stories using hashtag #KindnessStartsHere. Together, we can make our city a better place." The crowd erupted in applause, and the boy felt a surge of confidence. He knew that this week would be special, not just for him but for everyone in the community. Over the next few days, the city came alive with acts of kindness. People shared stories on social media of helping a neighbor, donating to a food bank, or simply smiling at a stranger. Schools held kindness-themed activities, and businesses offered discounts to customers who performed acts of kindness. The boy and his mother spent the week visiting different events, meeting people, and spreading their message. One of the highlights of the week was a visit to a senior living community. The boy had suggested organizing a kindness concert, where local musicians would perform for the residents. As he watched the seniors clap along to the music and smile at the performers, he felt a deep sense of joy. After the concert, he and his mother spent time talking to the residents, hearing their stories and sharing their own. One elderly woman took the boy's hand and smiled up at him. "You're doing such a wonderful thing," she said. "It's easy to forget how powerful kindness can be, but you've reminded us all." The boy felt a lump in his throat. "Thank you," he said. "That means a lot to me." As the week went on, the boy noticed something incredible happening. People weren't just performing acts of kindness because they felt they had to, they were doing it because it made them feel good. The hashtag kindness starts here was trending on social media, and the boy's inbox was filled with messages from people sharing how the movement had touched their lives. One message, in particular, stood out to him. It was from a teenager who had been struggling with bullying at school. She wrote, "Your story inspired me to stand up for someone who was being picked on. It wasn't easy, but it felt right. Thank you for showing me that kindness can change things." The boy read the message to his mother, his eyes shining with emotion. "This is why we're doing this," he said. "It's not just about one person or one act. It's about creating a ripple effect." His mother nodded, her own eyes misty. "You're absolutely right," she said. "And this is just the beginning." As Kindness Week came to an end, the boy and his mother held a closing ceremony at the city square. The crowd was even larger than before, and the atmosphere was electric with positivity. The boy stood on the stage once again, looking out at the sea of faces. "Thank you all for making this week so special," he said. "I've seen so many amazing acts of kindness, and it's reminded me that we're all connected. Let's keep this going, not just for one week but every day. Because kindness doesn't have an end date, it's something we can all carry with us, always." The crowd cheered, and the boy felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had ever experienced. He knew that their work was far from over, but he also knew that they had sparked something powerful, a movement that would continue to grow and touch lives for years to come. As he stepped down from the stage and joined his mother, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was the young man from the bank branch, the one who had mocked him months ago. He was smiling, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You've changed a lot of lives," the young man said. "Including mine." "Thank you." The boy smiled back. "Thank you for being part of this," he said. "Kindness starts with all of us." And as they stood there, surrounded by a community united by kindness, the boy knew that they were just getting started. The success of Kindness Week marked a turning point for the boy, his mother, and the entire community. What had started as a personal mission to address an unfair experience had grown into a citywide movement, inspiring people to embrace kindness in their daily lives. The boy and his mother were overwhelmed by the support and enthusiasm, but they knew their work wasn't done. They were determined to keep the momentum going and ensure that kindness became a lasting part of their community's culture. In the weeks that followed, the boy and his mother began planning their next steps. They decided to establish a permanent kindness council, made up of community leaders, educators, and volunteers, to oversee ongoing initiatives and events. The council would also create resources, such as workshops and toolkits, to help schools, businesses, and families incorporate kindness into their routines. The boy was especially excited about one of the council's first projects, a kindness journal, that would be distributed to students across the city. The journal would include prompts for reflecting on acts of kindness, spaces to write about personal experiences, and tips for spreading positivity. The boy had come up with the idea himself, inspired by his own habit of jotting down thoughts and ideas in his notebook. This way, he explained to his mother, kids can see how their small actions add up over time. It'll help them understand that kindness is a habit, not just something you do once in a while. His mother smiled, impressed by his thoughtfulness. "That's a brilliant idea," she said. "I think it's going to make a big impact." As the Kindness Council began its work, the boy and his mother also received an unexpected invitation. A national organization dedicated to promoting empathy and inclusion wanted to feature their story in a documentary about grassroots movements. The boy was nervous about being on camera again, but his mother reassured him. "This is a chance to share our message with even more people," she said. "And you've already proven how brave and capable you are." The documentary crew spent several days filming the boy and his mother, capturing their daily routines, meetings with the Kindness Council, and visits to schools and community events. The boy found himself opening up to the camera, sharing his thoughts and feelings with an honesty that surprised even himself. He talked about how the incident at the bank had initially made him feel small and unimportant, but how it had ultimately taught him the power of standing up for what's right. "Kindness isn't just about being nice," he said during one of his interviews. "It's about seeing people for who they really are and treating them with respect. It's about making sure everyone feels like they belong." When the documentary was released, it quickly gained attention, not just locally but across the country. The boy's story resonated with people from all walks of life, and he and his mother received messages from strangers who had been inspired to start their own kindness initiatives. The boy was amazed by the reach of their message, but he remained humble, always remembering the lesson his mother had taught him, that kindness starts with one person, one moment, one choice. One day, as the boy and his mother were walking through the park where they had held the kindness fair, they noticed something special. The kindness tree was still standing, its branches now filled with hundreds of notes from people sharing their stories and spreading encouragement. The boy stopped to read a few of the notes, his heart swelling with pride. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a note that read, "Because of you, I decided to be kind to someone today. Thank you." His mother smiled and put an arm around his shoulders. "You've done something incredible," she said. "You've touched so many lives, and you're just getting started." The boy looked up at her, his eyes shining. "It's not just me," he said. "It's all of us. Everyone who's chosen to be kind, they're the ones making the difference." His mother nodded, her heart full. "You're right," she said. "But it all started with you." As they walked home, the boy felt a deep sense of gratitude. He knew that their journey was far from over, but he also knew that they had planted seeds of kindness that would continue to grow. He thought about all the people they had met, the stories they had heard, and the lives they had touched. And he realized that, in spreading kindness, he had found his purpose. That night, as he lay in bed, the boy opened his kindness journal and began to write. "Today," he wrote, "I saw how much good we can do when we work together. Kindness is like a ripple, it starts small, but it can grow and grow until it touches the whole world. And I'm so glad to be part of it." He closed the journal and smiled, feeling a sense of peace. He knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would always choose kindness. And with his mother by his side, he was ready to keep making a difference, one act, one moment, one person at a time.